Lexi D'Angelo, welcome to Get Gutsy. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Yeah, and tell everyone where you are right now. Where are you talking to me from?
I am talking to you from the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, aka in a small island called Bermuda.
Yes, Bermuda. I have been there one time. Beautiful place. And it's interesting because you and I first
It
met
is.
in Massachusetts, which is where I live and
Yes.
you used to live. So what brought you to Bermuda?
Actually, my husband's job brought me here. So he's in reinsurance. It sounds a lot more boring than it actually is, but basically, this is like a hub for reinsurance and insurance companies. And he grew up here as well. So he kind of always wanted to move back here. And I was kind of like, no, like that's a tiny island. I think I'd go crazy. But long story short, we came for 4 months. I fell in love and was like, we need to stay here. I don't want to
That's
leave.
so awesome. Yeah, I remember the
Yes.
insurance scene when I was in Bermuda. I definitely saw that. I saw a lot of
Yeah,
insurance signage. I'm like, oh, okay, this is a whole thing here. So where
it
did you
is.
meet your husband?
What did you say? Sorry.
Where did you initially meet your husband?
Oh, I met him at a bar on a Sunday fun day in Boston. I don't know if you're familiar with South Boston, but there's this bar called Stats. It is very grungy, very like post-college, craziness. And yep, that's when we first met. And, one thing led to another. It was this whole wild day. I'm laughing because I like no longer even drink. So it was just like a completely other lifetime of us just being these like wild, crazy party animals. And it ended up working out though.
Ended up working out. Yeah. Did you go to college in
Yeah,
Boston? You too?
I did. I went to Boston College. He went to Babson College, but we didn't know each other in college. We met like a couple years afterwards.
At Stats. That's where it all went down.
At Stats.
At
Yep, where the
Stats.
love happens.
Oh
Exactly.
my gosh, that's so rad. No, I don't, I live in Western Mass in the Berkshires. So, but New York City is
Yes.
much more familiar to me because I lived there for 11 years before moving to Massachusetts. But I have an
Oh, got it.
appreciation for Boston when I go in.
Yes.
We go, actually, if I had to choose to take, because now I have 3 kids, if we had to choose, because where we live is kind of equidistant between Boston and New York, we'd prefer to go to Boston because it's just so much easier. It's just so much easier.
Definitely more manageable. Actually, my husband Jake is from Longmeadow, Longmeadow, Massachusetts. So, like, kind of same with him. He grew up in Western Massachusetts. So,
Oh,
that's
okay.
funny. We got a few like little ties here.
We do have ties, and like you, I also no longer drink. Was quite the partier
Oh,
back in the day.
there you go.
Yeah, so
Yep.
we have that in common. We'll have to kind of download. Well, let's just actually start there because this might lead into a larger
Yes.
conversation. Why did you decide to stop drinking?
That's so funny. So my very last podcast episode, I interviewed Ruby Warrington, who is the author of Sober Curious. I don't know if you've read it. Have
I think
you?
I saw you post about that, but no, I haven't.
Yeah, so she's amazing. The book's amazing and really incredible. And I remember a couple years ago, I had first heard about the term sober curious, and I was like, that's weird. Like, no way. I love my wine. Like, I take pride in knowing my cabs and like all that stuff. And I was like, that's bizarre. But then more recently, this past December, on my 30th birthday, I just had this moment where I was like, why am I drinking? Like, I barely drink anymore. I feel like the times that I do, I'm doing it to like fit in. And I just kind of got really curious about why I was drinking. And basically, none of the reasons were good. None of them added up. And I realized, like, as I was stepping into 30, I felt so proud of myself for the evolution of where I've been and how I've been stepping so much more into my power. And it kind of felt like the last piece of just, I don't know, letting go this societal norm and this feeling like, oh, I have to do this in order to fit in. If it's not my truth, like that was kind of something that I was almost I don't know, trying to hold on to fit in and not be like this complete like weirdo. But I was like, that's not true. Like, I think it's time to let go of this and see what's on the other side of just, you know, being completely in this ownership of being a sober, curious person.
I like that. So sober curious means that, like, what exactly is sober curious?
Yeah, so I think it can mean something different for everybody. But basically, it's this idea of, it can be anything from like you thinking like, oh, I currently drink alcohol, but I'm curious about the idea of what it would be like to be sober and just kind of starting from there. Or it can literally be like, you consider yourself as somebody who doesn't drink, but it's not like you're never going to pick up a drink again in your life. Or, I mean, it could be, but there's still that, I guess, gray area of like, if you wanted to take a sip of alcohol or have like a drink or whatever, it's not like, oh my God, I'm so bad and wrong for it, but getting really curious about why you're actually choosing to drink and being really conscious and aware of that.
Got it. Got it. So a little bit different than sober, which is you don't touch it. It's it's you can't go there because you might, relapse and go into some really horrible places. Oh, that's very interesting. And so how many, that was on your 30th birthday. How old are you now?
I'm still 30. So this is very recent. This was a few months ago. Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
When I turned 30, I had a big wake up call literally on my 30th birthday. So when you say 30th birthday, okay, I can totally connect to that. I was still in my corporate career and I had this moment on the Las Vegas Strip. I was there for a business guy. It's not what you think. I was there for a business conference that we purchased this company and we were taking over their conference portfolio. And so I was there kind of shadowing the event and checking it out. And I was so not meant to be there. I'm like, I cannot do this anymore. And so I literally had this wake up call on the Las Vegas Strip I was on my 30th birthday.
Wow.
And it was this whole, the voice came on. I write about this in my book and it was just, Jenny, what are you doing? It was, Jenny, what are you doing? I'm like, I know. I can't do this anymore. And so it was this pact that I made with myself that I'd make a move by the end of that year. My birthday's in May. And so by the end of that particular year, I said, that's it. I'm going to make a career change. I'm going to stop thinking about it. But then the sober thing for me, it's been, let's see, it was May of 2015. And now we're in, 2019. So it's almost been 4 years for me. And it was very much a kind of a spiritual experience again, where it was that I was going to a gala for my kids' school at that time. And at that point I would have a conversation with myself. All right, how many glasses of wine am I going to drink? Because the next day was Mother's Day and I don't want to feel any iota of hungover. And because my body I was never good at drinking, really. I thought I was, but my body, I told myself, my body was like, hello, this is toxic for you. And, and so I remember thinking, wait, I don't want to have any. I don't need any. I like myself better when I'm not drinking. I remember everything. I'm proud of what I do. I'm proud of what I say, all of that stuff. And so that was it. And, so it's been close to 4 years now. And I feel like I'm excited for you, Lexi, as you continue walking that path. I've realized that it is such a beautiful place to be where you don't need that. You don't need something after you quote your stressful day. There's so many other ways to handle that. Get into a bath, go work out, go write something, go read a great book, go watch a movie. There's just other ways to do it. And I think it's important that we have these conversations, because last night I was at a concert and I'm like looking around going, I feel like my husband and I are like some of the only people here who are, don't have a beer in our hands or don't have, some other kind of alcohol. Again, it's not a judgment. It was simply an observation. And, there's other ways to experience life without having to become intoxicated or kind of put a substance in you that might make you feel like shit the next day. So I want all of our listeners to take that in.
And it's so nice to like just have people out there speaking about this, because I definitely felt like, oh my God, well, I'm totally a weirdo if I don't drink, or like, who in the world doesn't drink that I know of? Like, nobody. Like, shit, what am I going to do? Who am I going to hang out with? And and that's not to say, like, I mean, I still hang out with people who drink all the time. And
Right.
it's fine.
Yeah.
Until it's not, and then I leave. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm gonna go home and get a good night's sleep now. But yeah, I think it's really nice to just have the connection with people who like kind of get it, or who will like go there and explore things with you that are non-alcohol related. And so I think that's awesome. And yeah, it's fun to hear that you've had this amazing experience with choosing not to drink as well.
Yes. And you can reach out to me anytime to have these conversations. And it's interesting, I find too, what happened for me, which I was totally not expecting, was then I was attracting these women who wanted to work with me, who were also sober, or who were contemplating that, who were becoming sober curious. And I found that I was an inspiration to them in some way, or just a place where they could come and tell the truth about this place where they were. Because I think for many, whether it's drinking, whether it's something else, like fill in the blank with whatever it looks like, everyone else does, but not everyone else does do it. It just seems like that.
Yes.
Then that feeling of, oh my gosh, well, how am I going to go to a social event if I'm not doing this? Am I going to be accepted? Am I going to feel like this weirdo? And quite frankly, being a weirdo is a good thing.
Yes, I'm so with you. I love being a weird, like, I think the more that you can embrace your inner weirdness, and like I kind of shared with you earlier, your inner magic, like the more that you get to shine, the more that you attract and become like a beacon for the people that you're really calling in, the experiences that you want to call in, and all that fun stuff. So
absolutely. So let's talk more about your path and how have you so you went to school in Boston.
Yes.
What was the first thing you did when you graduated?
I actually, that summer, I was a wakeboarding and water skiing instructor at a sleepover camp that I had gone to like for 6 years when I was a kid. So it's like a camp counselor basically that summer, and it was amazing. It was so fun. And I was like in nature every day, like connecting with the most amazing people. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is fabulous. And I was like, I love this. And then I had studied abroad in Rome while I was in college. And so then after that summer, I went back to Rome, and let's just say it was not a very healthy lifestyle.
A lot of wine and a lot of pasta. Was that
exactly? I was nocturnal. I was basically like a club promoter.
You were a club promoter? That's so.
Yep. So I was basically like a babysitter for all these so I was doing this thing called the Spanish Steps pub crawl, where I would have to like sell these pub crawl tickets and club tickets to people, and I'd basically just be holding all these like girls' hands at night, like walking from club to club, making sure that they were like getting there safely. And I was just like, okay. Then I started to have like all these panic attacks, and I was like, what am I doing?
Wow. Dude, let's pause there. So you were having panic attacks. What was the root of that?
Yeah. So I think initially it was kind of this thing about this is so random, but my little sister, she has been like highly allergic to all nuts, shellfish, mustard, like random things her entire life, and would go into anaphylactic shock like a lot. And I had just found out that I was supposedly allergic to hazelnuts. And so I was kind of freaking out, and there was a lot of hazelnuts in Italy. And so I was kind of like, would have these irrational freakouts that like I had eaten something with hazelnuts and like I was going into anaphylactic shock. And so while it stemmed from this food thing, it was really just like, I think a lack of control in my life. And just this feeling of like, okay, I know that I'm meant for something so much more than being a club promoter wandering the streets of Rome. What the hell am I doing? So I went back to Boston, and I was supposed to live in Italy for a year. It only ended up being like 4 months. And I went back to Boston, and I was like debilitated actually, like with anxiety. Like I was driving myself to the hospital every day because I was thinking that I was having these allergic reactions. Like it was nuts.
Wow.
Yep. And when I would get out of these panic attack modes, I was like, oh my God, you're insane. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? You're clearly fine. Like, why are you like doing this, or what's
Did you
going
feel
on?
like you're like, what were you going through when you felt like you were having these allergic reactions? Like your throat was closing up, you were like,
My heart was racing. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't swallow. Like, and it's just, panic attack symptoms. And I knew that, but like, I couldn't, it's like something
it's
took over.
irrational. It's irrational. And I will tell you, Lexi, I've had those too. And so I totally relate. My husband has struggled in that area as well. And, I think that's why he and I understand each other so much, because we've known what we've gone through. But to your point, it's the lack of control. And when you, like, for me, it sounds like you thought you were having an allergic reaction. I was having these in corporate. So thank you so much for sharing your truth around this. When I was, in this quote dream job, but I was totally stressed out. There was so much pressure. I was in New York City, which, already right there, it's just like a ball of stress. And mine was related to food. And it wasn't allergic reaction, but I felt like I was choking. I felt like I was choking on my food. I think I wrote about that in my book. I can't remember if it was exactly around the food piece, but I remember reading it. Sometimes I would eat at my desk, and because we were so busy, I couldn't even like not eat at my desk. And so I was eating at my desk while I was working, kind of shoveling the food in. And I'm like, that's it. This is over. Like, I'm dying. I'm dying. The food is stuck in the throat. And that was basically a panic attack. And it's not rational, but in that moment, it feels so clear. Like,
so clear.
Something is horribly wrong, and you need help. And for you literally were driving yourself to the hospital. And so what would they say when you would arrive?
Oh, they would be like, okay, like, we're just gonna like wait and monitor you and like see how like you're doing. And so like sometimes I would just drive to the hospital and like sit in the parking lot, and just being in like the ER parking lot would calm me down, because I knew if I needed to get help, like it was there.
Right.
So it sounds so wild, like talking about it, but it was. And then eventually I ended up like seeing like a therapist, and, trying to get some help with that. And it kind of helped, but like not really. And so at like the same time, I started doing transcendental meditation and going to yoga. And that was like, life-changing for me. And I finally the yoga studio kind of became the place that I would go to instead of the hospital. And if I was having panic attacks, I would just like get down into downward dog and like just start breathing, and like really just becoming present with my breath, and like, okay, like I'm breathing, I'm good. Like I'm moving through these poses. Like it's okay.
So really you took back your power, because then it's not like I have to go to the hospital and sit in the parking lot, or maybe go inside.
Right.
But I'm going to be in my body, and I'm going to notice my breath, and I am breathing in and I am breathing out. I used to say things to myself like, I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. And just focus on that breath.
Yes.
I am breathing. I am safe. I am breathing. I am safe. And it's so important that we talk about this, because you're not the only one who's gone through that. I'm not the only person who's gone through what I have. And I feel like it's so connected to when we're not living in alignment with our own truth. We're not using our gifts. And, it sounds like back then you were still drinking. I was still definitely drinking at that time. I was, doing more than that. It was quite the party girl. And, our body, it's just our way of our body is getting our attention in a very extreme manner. Right?
Yes.
So then we've got to start taking responsibility for our health and our wellness.
Totally. Yes. A 1,000,000%. And I like started to notice the benefits, and I was like, okay, this is great. But then the panic attacks kept coming back. And so I ended up going on anxiety medicine, and I'm like a person who like doesn't touch Advil. So that was like an interesting thing. And then, a few months later, I was like, okay, I got to get off of this. Like, I feel like numb. Like, yes, it was helping with the panic attacks, but, everything else was just like I couldn't sleep. Like, it was terrible. So I got off.
So that was short term. And so you weaned yourself off. Okay.
Yep. And then like, it's funny because my husband Jake we had just started like dating around this time, and he was like always noticing how I literally would never sleep at night and he'd be like, what are you awake about? Like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I literally just can't stop thinking about like how this job I'm in, I was like in sales for a radio company, and like I mean, people thought it was a really cool job, but I was miserable. And I was just like, I just can't stop thinking about the fact that I know that I'm meant to be doing something so much more, and I don't know what it is, and it's driving me insane. And so I literally for like a year was like, I felt like I was going crazy because I wasn't sleeping, and I was just like bugged with this like idea of like there's something more, but like what is it? How am I ever going to find it? And I was just like so stressed out and so anxious.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So how did you find it?
Yeah. So, and this is like a long, we've been like
This
going
is
down.
great. I love these. Well, that's what I love about this show and having conversations with women like you is we can talk about this because
Yeah.
there's somebody tuning in right now who's in it. She's in the
Yes.
going crazy part going,
Um,
I thought it was just me. Like, nope, and Lexi, that's exactly what I went through too. And, and so I remember when you and I we met at Sarah Jenks's Moon Lodge. She had, I think it was her first ever
yeah.
moon gathering. And I remember you had this way about you, and we just connected. And so that has led to this conversation a few years later.
So cool.
And yeah, it's like, this is life. And if we're willing to, I mean, being on this spiritual path, it's freaking not for the faint of heart. I saw a quote recently. Someone's like, yeah, I think it was, it was like Tibetan Buddhist master or something. And it was, yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, just don't do it. But if you're going to do it, if you're going to begin, then finish.
Yes.
So that's just it. They're easier paths. You know what I'm saying? But then once you're here, it's phenomenal, but you've got to be willing to finish. You've got to be willing to walk it. And so, okay, so how did you find it? How did you find the thing?
So, I had so random. I had started doing CrossFit, and I was kind of like taking care of like my body a little bit better and like drinking a little bit less. And because Jake had been he was gone in London for like 3 months for his job. So I'm gonna blame this on Jake. Bad influence. I was like, well, since he's gone and we're not drinking as much together, like I'm gonna really focus on me and my healthy lifestyle and like come back to that. And so I just remember like after this workout, I was going to get in the shower, and I just had this thought of like, what if you died, or like, what if you found out that you had like a year left to live? Like, would you still continue on the way that you're like carrying on right now? And I was like, oh my God, like, no, like, absolutely not. Like, what am I doing with my life? And so I was like, okay, like I get it. Like this is not what I meant to be doing, but like help. Like I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. And I was like, dear God, like please, like give me a sign, like show me something. Like I need to make a change. Like this cannot continue. And the next day I was scrolling through Facebook, and this ad popped up for the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And it was talking about like health coaching. And I was like, what's that? Like, okay, like click. And since I was super like into my health at like the time, I was like, whoa, like you can coach people and like help people with their health. And I can like connect with these amazing women, and they can be my clients. And then I started like following a few of the women who had graduated and who were health coaches. And I was like, oh, like, wow, like this is so cool what they're doing with their lives. And I was like, I didn't even know this world existed.
Right.
And like within 24 hours, I had like spoken to like one of the graduates, was on the phone with her, signed up for IIN, and like started down the coaching route. And so I joked that like, IIN was like my gateway drug into the industry.
Got it. Nice. Okay. So you went in through the IIN pathway, and did you start coaching clients right away? Kind of talk to us about the business development path.
Yeah. So I had enrolled, I think it was June 2013 or 14. I can't remember what year it
Mm-hmm.
was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't have clients for probably, I don't think I got a client until December of that year. So it took like 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like, love the program. It was really interesting, but it wasn't really that helpful in terms of helping you get
With the business
clients.
part, yeah. I went
Right.
through coach training too, and that definitely was my take. And now I have my own coaching school because that's the part that
Yep.
I wanted. It's like, yes, you need to be great as a coach, and I feel like there's such an importance to bring integrity to the craft,
Of
and
course.
you need to know how to have a business, or else
Yes.
you're not going to be doing this unless a company hires you, which was possible as well. But many people go in
Yeah.
because they want to work for themselves. They want to be
Exactly.
a business owner. Okay, cool. So you get a client towards the end of that year, and then what happens?
Yeah, so I'm kind of jumping. So in October, though, I was like, all right, this isn't working on my own. Like, I clearly need help. Saw another Facebook ad. So I'm like, oh, I guess Facebook ads are are
They
actually a
work.
great thing sometimes. Yeah, exactly. And it was for like a 6-month program for health coaches and helping them in their businesses and getting to 5K months. And I was like, what? Like, you can make $5,000 in a month? Like, that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like I think it was a 5K investment. And
Mm-hmm.
that to me like felt like a gazillion dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well,
and I was like, how
you had invested in IIN too, so it's like, all right, you invested in IIN, and then you got
right.
this other opportunity. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, and I had spoken to my dad and my uncle who they're entrepreneurs themselves. And I was surprised because I thought they're gonna be like, this is stupid, like, don't sign up. But they were like, how are you supposed to learn by yourself? Like, you need people to mentor you who have gone before you and who can like tell you what the roadblocks are and tell you like what's gonna come on the path. And so like, absolutely do this. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, whoa, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so my dad actually paid for it. I'm very grateful. And we, with the promise that, I would make back the money and I would pay him back and all that fun stuff. And so, that was scary and exciting and amazing all at once. And yeah, it was really so empowering to be in a space in a small mastermind / group program where other women were going through exactly what I was going through. And I had this coach who could like, guide me along the way. And I was just like, wow, like this industry is so cool. And so that helped me get my first client or first couple of clients. And I also, on the side though, was doing like some website design for people because I was just good at it. And I was having these conversations with people about like their branding and their business. And people were like, you're so helpful with this. Like, why aren't you a business coach? And I was like, oh, like, I don't know. Like, I actually love this stuff. I don't really actually like helping people with their health goals,
Right.
turns out. And so I decided, I was like, I'm going to be a business coach. And I remember telling this coach at the time that I was going to be a business coach, and she completely shot me down.
Wow.
And yeah, she was like, you cannot do that. That is completely out of integrity. Like, you are known for a health coach right now. People are going to be like really suspicious if you come out tomorrow saying you're a business coach. Like, it's not going to look good. And I was like, so like crushed. And that like really, really affected me and made me like question like who I was and like my integrity and like all this stuff. But ultimately I'm a pretty stubborn, fiery person. And I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm going to just do it because that's what I know I'm actually really good at and what I enjoy doing. So I don't care what you said.
Well, good for you. And you had that, you worked in sales at the radio company. You were basically, selling what clubs in Rome.
And I had done also, I was in marketing prior to that. I had managed social media. I knew
you had all that. And like a business coach is wide ranging too. There's so many areas of business that we can help people with. So, and that's going to happen too. It's often we'll meet people along the way who get triggered by us and they take that trigger out. And so we have a choice to say, I'm going to believe what they say. I'm going to do it my way anyway. And so you did it your way anyway. And so what were you working one-on-one with clients at that point? Did you have programs? Like, how did you kind of bring that to life?
So I was working one-on-one with people, and I started doing like a couple of, I think I worked with like 2 or 3 people for free for like a month or two, just to kind of, because I was like, am I out of integrity? Like, what's going on? Like, let's just make sure. And and as soon as I was on the calls and people were like, oh my God, this is so helpful. And like, we're getting results. I was like, okay, like clearly I know what I'm talking about. Like this is going to work. But I needed that kind of confidence boost and that reassurance. So that definitely helped. And so I was selling one-on-one stuff. And then let's see, I think in June, I think I had like 23 one-on-one clients, and it was like crazy overwhelming.
Getting out of control.
Yeah, getting out of control. So then in July, I created a group program, and I actually like hit 6 figures in 6 months, so it was very quick.
And it was through the group program. Was the group program kind of
I joined a different group program after that. After this person was kind of like,
oh yeah, you joined a group, but when you launched your own, was that what catapulted your revenue?
No, actually, it was like the one-on-one stuff. Like I had a lot of one-on-one clients, and then of course the group stuff added to it, and then also made the schedule open up more. So it definitely was part of it, but the one-on-one was probably like half.
So you really rocked out the one-on-one piece. A lot of my clients, I know women who are listening in, are at that point going, okay, they want the group piece, but how does that fit in? And how long do you do the one-on-one, and how many? And it's such a personal choice. It is. But for you, it sounded like you were just maxed out with your time. And you needed to reclaim some of that and put together, this program, this process where people could go through. I know for many, and for myself included, it's like you find yourself repeating the same things over and over and over again to one person at a time. And that gets a bit old and tiring when you're designed in a way to say, I want to impact more, and I don't want to be a maniac with like every minute of my day scheduled with a client.
Yes, 1,000,000%. So I was seeing trends come up over and over again. Like, okay, people start out struggling with this, and then it's this. And like, all right, it's time to create the program where I can, guide them through this path, and also give them, one-on-one support and personalized support, like on the group calls and whatnot. So that's what I did. And it was exciting to create the group program, but along the way, like I had just become so burnt out. I was creating success, like, and modeling it after somebody else's version of success. And someone asked me, like, what do you desire? Like, what is it that you want to create in like next year or the next few months? And I was literally like panicked, and I was like, I had no clue. And the only like clues I got were from listening to other people then share what they wanted. And I was like, oh yeah, like I want that. Oh yeah, I want that. But like, I was literally just making other people's desires and truths my own. And I had like no compass, like it felt like, of what was my true north. And I was completely lost, and I was completely burnt out. And then that led me to having this like crazy health situation where I don't even know how to explain it, but I had these stomach pains that literally felt like I have IBS, or I had IBS. I don't luckily deal with it anymore. But it was beyond, like, it was like knives. Like I thought I was dying. Like I couldn't stop like throwing up from the pain. And like, so I went to the ER. I was hooked up to morphine. Like it was nuts. Yeah. And so then I had like a whole new like awakening of, oh my God, what have I been doing? Like I've literally just been grinding away, making other people's dreams my own. And like, it's really time that I turn off all this outside noise and really tune into who I am, like what I desire, what my passions are, and get really like quiet with that. And that felt like so scary.
How did you do that?
Well, I basically went into this place of like business basically kind of shut down because of my health, because like client contracts came to an end and all this stuff. And so I was just like in this space of like complete darkness, the mystery of it all. I didn't really have a name for it at that point. I was just like, what the hell is going on?
Right. Are you still in Massachusetts at this point, or are you in Bermuda? Okay.
Still in Massachusetts. Yeah, this was maybe 3 years ago. And I just realized like, I kind of just came back to the spiritual side of me, where when I was younger, I'd always had this interest in like astrology and like the universe and like all that stuff. And so I actually like started just doing like research and reading books. And then it led me to like a couple of programs like this, amazing. It's called Applied Astrology with Deborah Silverman. She's phenomenal. And so I got into that, and I basically like flipped a switch where I was so business, so strategic, to completely like spiritual woo magic person. And I spent like probably 7-8 months like playing in that space and really diving deep into that, because I was just like so burnt out from the strategitic business stuff. So it was interesting.
That's I love it. I mean, that area is such a rich one. And so then how did you navigate from there? You're in 7-8 months in this whole like astrology universe magic. And then were you able to layer that into the business? Like, how did you kind of rectify how you're going to move forward with these parts of yourself?
Totally. So I feel like I feel like it was a going back and forth and yo-yoing until probably this past November even, or September. I kept going to the extremes. Like I had a really hard time I would weave them in together, but then I would dip like too far on the strategic side and be like, like gotta go back to the woo. Then I dipped too far over there. And so I had a really hard time. I mean, everybody from the outside probably would have been like, oh, she does a really good job of integrating the two. But in my mind, like it felt like it was kind of either or at times. So it wasn't until like more recently where I went like super strategic. I kind of shut down my coaching business actually last spring. Again, because I was like, I don't know, lost and confused. And then I was like, I'm going to open up a branding business. Like I've done websites in the past. I've done branding in the past. People love my graphics. Like this is what I'm going to do. Like I want a really clear, tangible outcome for people, because I just come from this space where like I was super woo, and like people were like, what is it that you do? Like I love you, but I don't really know like what result you can get me. So I was like, I'm going to show them results.
Yes. So
which is hilarious.
Branding. Yeah, I know. Right. Like, fine, you watch me. And so you create this branding company. Okay. And so you were I remember that, seeing some of your stuff around, you built like templates that people could, apply, like web templates. They're beautiful. Are you still doing that?
So I'm still selling the website templates, but I'm removed from any of like the active like rebranding or website design, like where I'm actually like in the midst of things. So you can buy things off of the website, but I'm not doing it anymore for people. Just like I was very successful with it, and I got so many clients, and they were amazing clients, but ultimately I was just, for me, like, and there's nothing against branding and design, because I actually see like how branding can be such an integral and intimate part of a business. And it is like in some ways the foundation and the core and the soul of a business. And I just was like, you're so far off your path right now. This is not what you came to do.
Right. You realized that your heart wasn't in it in the way that it needed to be.
I realized my heart wasn't in it. So I started to like make the switch probably like in November, to be like, okay, I'm coming back to coaching, and, throwing away the strategies, the rules, and I'm just going to do what lights me up. And I'm not like, I'm just going to kind of find my way. And then I had another health scare, like kind of recently, I think in January or February,
Mm-hmm.
in the hospital. And, you know, I had the whole download of like what it is that I meant to be doing and time to actually like claim it and do the thing. And
What is it?
and that, yeah, yeah, exactly. So basically, long story short, I was just like, I'm here to help the healers, the spiritual entrepreneurs, and like the visionary leaders of the world really just step into their magic, to claim their magic, and to share that with the world, and to
Mm-hmm.
really to show also like people that magic is real, that, and to make
Mm-hmm.
magic mainstream, like in a
Yeah.
nutshell, is to really make magic mainstream, both through helping people see that like they can create it from the inside out with their being, and then also helping the people who are at like the front line of change, the leaders,
Mm-hmm.
really own what they're meant to be doing so they can have that ripple effect as well.
Yes, 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 yes. So what is your definition of magic? Let's talk about, I actually have a program called Magic Makers. I don't know if you know that, but I am
Oh no, I didn't know
oh
that.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Amazing.
Big fan, big fan. What,
Oh,
let's talk
I
about
love
magic.
it.
Like what is magic?
Yeah, well, magic, that's a great question. So to me, I think obviously magic is different for everybody, and it's really finding what your definition of it is.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's just like experiencing, being able to like live into what feels like it might be a fantasy, but making it your reality. So really just taking those things that you are like, oh my God, like I could never imagine that in my wildest dreams, fantasies, but then it becomes your reality, and
Mm-hmm.
starting to create that from the inside out. So by the thoughts that you're thinking, the feelings you're feeling, the beliefs that are, you know, your core beliefs, so the conscious and then the subconscious beliefs, and then just really embodying who it is that you desire to be, and really just living that life that you originally thought was impossible, but just making it your normal.
Yes, yes, yes. So good. And like what you said when you joined that first program, when you thought, oh my gosh, I could make $5,000 a month, you know, in my business as a coach. Are you kidding me? And then
Yeah.
you do it, you know, you do it. I remember, you know, by setting, it's often in business, you set those income goals, and what one seemed impossible, like implausible, like how would that ever
Mm-hmm.
be done? And then it happens. it's it's so right on, like this fantasy, you make it your reality. And I know you're really into NLP, so let's just you know, spend a short moment there. Like what do you want to share with our listeners about that, around, you know, our
Yeah.
thoughts? And you talk about like, goes along the lines of, and it's something you're really passionate about, ditching the familial societal conditioning, and then
Yeah.
really coding our imprints here for success. What do you have to say
Yeah. Yeah. So for people who are like, what is NLP?
about that?
It's neurolinguistic programming. And basically how I like to describe it is basically just taking all of the programming that you have, that you've kind of picked up from your childhood, whether it was from parents, society, friends, teachers, your school system, whatever it is. And most of the time, these beliefs, these programmings are not serving you. And instead, learning how to reprogram your mind, your body, soul, and energy so you can create your version of success, of self-expression and fulfillment. So, also NLP is like it's a practice where you model excellence. So it's looking for examples of people who have achieved the thing that you desire, and like really seeing how they've done it and modeling that, not in the sense of like you become that person, but really like with success leaves clues, and being able to like find that trail and make it your own. So it's a really, really powerful practice technique, because ultimately like our subconscious mind dictates pretty much everything we do, like 99% of things that we do. And we are like actually running on autopilot a lot more than we even know. And so if 99% of the thoughts that we think, the actions we take are running by our subconscious, and the programming is outdated or is negative or limiting, then like it's no wonder that willpower isn't enough, or that even if we like say a couple affirmations here and there, like they're not working. And so I'm just so passionate about helping people really tap into those programs and recode them so they can actually create the reality that they desire.
I love that. So it's really recoding your programming to create a new reality.
Yeah. And it's very like, it's scientific, but it's also like metaphysical too. And so, it's really cool to just see how, it's like, for me at least, like the practical and the spiritual have really like kind of combined in this. And I mean, most people maybe come at NLP as a more science-based thing, but to me, like it just shows how it's like scientifically proving how all the metaphysical things that we hear or been taught like are totally true. And it helps me get on board with it a little bit more, because sometimes as humans, we like to have like those practical, rational explanations and applications. And so this can definitely help.
Yes. You're fired up about it. This is what you're taking a stand for.
I love it. It's just so like, it is literally life-changing. The people who I have worked with doing this work, like their lives change like rapidly, like things that that they've been working on for years in therapy, literally in minutes, like they are overcoming those bullshit beliefs, those negative patterns, and they are like quantum leaping into their desired reality. So it's just, it's like, it is magic. And I'm just like, oh my God, like magic is real. It's so cool.
And so did you study under someone for this? Like, how did you really learn more about NLP?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have always been kind of like geeking out about like neuroscience and how we can like enhance our brain. So I've been reading about it here and there. I've done different sessions with people who have practiced NLP, and I'm like, wow, like that's so transformational. And then more recently, I became certified as an NLP practitioner and a hypnotherapist and an EFT practitioner under the Yes Supply coaching method.
Cool.
Yes.
Good to know. Yes Supply coaching method. Oh my gosh, this has been awesome. Yeah, I mean, when there's just all these tools out there, and we need to find the tools that work for us and that are beneficial to our clients. And we find, you know, for me, the tool, and I don't practice it with my clients because I'm not trained in it. This is really a therapeutic model, but EMDR has been absolutely life-changing for me. And I have a lot of clients who join my coaching school, and they're therapists, and they either have an EMDR background or they get one once they learn what it did to me. You know, they're like, wow, because you know, they already have the therapeutic background. But that right there is a tool that I kind of just shout from the rooftops. And, you know, NLP, I've heard such wonderful things about it myself. I haven't studied it as deeply as you, but it just sounds incredible to know that. I mean, that's just it. We come in with this code, and like you said, we kind of pick things up from people in power and societal norms. And so much of it is not true. It doesn't have to be the way that you move through life. And if you want a different result or outcome than what you saw growing up, or you just don't buy into this old way of being anymore, then you need to be able to create the conditions for change. And this is such a great path for people to explore, Lexi. Thank you so much for bringing that up. And I want to ask you something I ask every single guest. And, you know, you're obviously a very gutsy woman. You've done some incredible things in your life, and you're only 30. I'm 41. I'm like, wow, I'm interested to see where you will be at 41. We'll do a check-in and be like, oh, wow.
Me too.
Right, I know. I'm
Can't
excited
wait
to see where I'm going to be at 50.
I was going to say.
Right? Yeah, I know.
Me too.
It's been a wild ride. What is the gutsiest move you've ever made, and how does it inspire your life and work today?
Yeah, so it's such a good question. And I feel like from an outsider's perspective, like there have been people would be like, oh, that would be the gutsiest thing. But I feel like I just continue to make more and more gutsy moves, like as I'm on this path, and they feel, I mean, not that they don't feel like anything, but I'm used to it. So I feel like the biggest gutsiest move that I made that really set me out on this path was saying yes to the coaching wink that I got, and really like deciding to completely ditch the norm of the 9-to-5 job and say, okay, I'm going to go at this full force. And in January of, I think it was 2014 or maybe it was 2015, I can't remember which year, I literally was like, I had just gotten my first client. Like I had one client and I was like, I'm quitting my job. Like, that's it. I'm doing this full time, no matter what. And there was like no guaranteed income coming in at all. And I don't, necessarily recommend that for everybody because that doesn't work for everybody. But for me, I was like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts, and I'm doing this thing. And people thought I was insane and crazy to do that. I kind of thought I was a little bit too, but I knew that this was what was meant for me. And I was like, nope, going all in, no other way.
Yep. Boom. And look at you now. And as you mentioned, trust me, I've had lots of twists and turns too. There will be twists and turns. And then you'll have something that works for a while. And then you go, you know what? This doesn't feel right anymore. I'm getting sick, or, I've got to do a recalibration, and we can. Pretty much every guest I've ever had on, like, that is the conversation, like that.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, spoiler alert, everyone, this is what you're going to go through. And that's why I'm committed to bringing these conversations to the forefront, because when it happens to you, you don't have to feel like something's wrong with you. But what might be wrong is that you're out of alignment, and, there's a new level that's being presented to you, or you're being invited into this initiation. And so you're going to come in kicking and screaming, or, your choice. Oh my gosh, Lexi, where can people find you?
They can find me. Over on Instagram is probably the place where I hang out the most. So Lexi D'Angelo, LexiDangelo, over on Instagram, or you can head to my website, LexiD'Angelo.com. Also, you can find me on Facebook if you just search for Lexi D'Angelo. I'm all the places under that name. So
all the spots.
Come find me. Come hang out with me.
Yes, they will come and hang out with you. You're super awesome. I'm so glad that we met way back when. And I'm thrilled that you found this place where it can, because that's very much what I do. It's the blending of the spiritual and the woo with the strategic. It's like magic and strategy can coexist. They're not mutually exclusive. And so, that's just it. When we can bring all of ourselves to the conversation, that's when we are this integrated whole. And we don't have to feel like we're these little slivers and we can only present this part because that's the only part that's acceptable to this audience.
Right.
That's not a way to live. And that's kind of the old paradigm. We're like, in this environment, you're this way. And then over here, you're this way. And I think that's also part of being sober. Or sober curious, like your eyes wide open, like, this is me.
I love that. Me. Yeah, and it's so true. It's about being fully integrated and owning all of your magic in all situations. Yes.
Boom. Well, that is a perfect way to end this episode. Thank you, Lexi D'Angelo. Thanks everyone for tuning in today. This is Jenny Fendig sending you so much love, magic, and confidence as you get gutsy. I will see you next time.